So just to give a quick peek at last week, markets, we did see a little bit of a lackluster week last week. The ending the week lower, which snapped a 4-week winning streak on the S&P and the NASDAQ. So we did see some weakness this week on markets. Earlier today, there was a survey out by Fox Business News showing that 97% of corporate executives think the U.S. economy is in a recession or headed for one. We'll see if that has any impact on market views for the week, especially with Jackson Hole Symposium going on this week. One thing that we are watching that many people are not discussing as of late, maybe because it really hasn't had that much of an impact on markets, is what's going on in the Ukraine-Russia war. We believe that the commentary in regards to this nuclear power plant, Zaporizhia, we think that it is something that people, especially our members, should keep an eye on, because that could have a future impact if it does become unstable. It could have a future impact on market activity. So we are watching that continuing over the weekend into next week to see if there are any headlines that could impact markets in aspect towards the nuclear power plant in Ukraine. Continuing from last week, one area that we see continued weakness is in housing. Existing home sales fell for the 6th week in a row last week. So we are watching the impact from the Fed starting to impact the housing market. One part of the market that hasn't seen an impact in regards to housing is rent. We are seeing rent prices continuing its upward move, even with the weakness in home sales. So we'll continue to watch rent because that is a indicator on inflation. So we'll see if that has any continued impact on any future inflationary reports. Excuse me. Last week as well, we did have the FOMC minute release. We continue to show Fed officials are stating that they need to keep raising rates to fight inflation, but they did say that they are seeing some worries surrounding lifting of borrowing costs are too fast. So we'll see if that has any impact on any future action by the Fed. We'll get a clear indication as well. Maybe not a clear, but we'll get a better insight into what Fed Power believes as he speaks this week from Jackson Hole. One area that we continue to mention to keep an eye on as it does impact markets has been the US dollar and the yield markets. This week, on the yield markets, we did see the 10-year yield trade right by that 3% resistance level. We noticed that once yield markets started to do an uptick, the equity markets, especially on the NASDAQ side, we did see a volume downtick throughout the week. US dollar to the euro basically almost in parity. We haven't seen that parity since June about. So it's interesting. While we saw the parity in June and US dollar starting to weaken is when the markets started to rise as well. So we'll see if the US dollar strength continues to show any impact in our trading markets. This week, as we all are waiting for on the Fed side, we are waiting for comments from Powell on Thursday at Jackson Hole. Just taking a peek at this week, top earnings this week, we do have continued earnings. Even though it is on a lesser amount, we do have some big names. We have Dell, Dick's, DKS, Dollar Tree, DLTR, Gap, GPS, Nordstrom, JWN, Macy's, Marvell, MRVL, Peloton, PTON, Toll Brothers, TOL, Ulta, Urban, VMW, and Zoom. So we do have some big names reporting throughout the week. Taking a look at your world events that we're watching for the week. Not much action on Monday. We do have a Hong Kong CPI, but that really does have no impact on markets. Tuesday, we'll be watching new home sales. We have the PMI composite, the Fed discount minutes, and on the European side, we have the EZ, Eurozone, Germany, PMI composite, and the Eurozone consumer confidence. We also have some commentary in the evening by Fed's Neil Kashkari. So we'll be listening into what he has to say. He did speak last week, and he continues to discuss about the fact that the Fed is not on pace to stop, that they are watching inflation, and that is the main aspect of what Fed speakers are looking at. On Wednesday, we have durable goods that we'll be watching. Thursday, we have the GDP number. We have Japan PPI, ECB minutes, and to all Tesla watchers, we have Tesla begins trading on a stock split basis. Friday, we have the personal income and outlays, which is key. Michigan sentiment as well, which is key because they do have their sub areas of inflation data. So we'll be watching those two data points on Friday. Excuse me. We do have Fed speak as well. Powell is speaking. We have the Japan Tokyo CPI and the Jackson Hole Symposium. So we'll be watching any of that commentary throughout the week and throughout any, if anything happens on Friday with Fed Powell's speech, will be clearly posted in the news desk. Company events for the week, not much action at all. We are ending the summer events, so we do have these summer doldrums, so not much action on shareholder meetings or analyst calls. Conferences for the week, as always, if there are any questions regarding any of these conferences, let us know. You can reach out to us via Ask the Desk, and we'll let you know if there are any specific companies that are reporting during these conferences. Economic calendar for the week. Looking at this week, we have on Monday, pretty dead day, not much action. Tuesday, we'll be watching the PMI composite flash as well as the new home sales. As always, oil traders, we have the API crude oil data after hours. Also on Tuesday, we'll be watching and waiting for comments out by Neil Kashkari. On Wednesday, we have durable goods orders and pending home sales on watch. And as always, we have the petroleum report for any and all oil traders. Thursday, GDP, initial jobless claims. We'll be keeping a close eye on. And as always, nat gas traders, the natural gas report at 10:30 a.m. Friday, we'll be watching personal income and outlays and the consumer sentiment. These are also provide inflationary points that we'll be watching and keying on throughout the day. We also have Fed Speak Jerome Powell speaking at Jackson Hole at 10 a.m. So that's the econ calendar we'll be watching for the week. Earnings, as well as we mentioned before, we have a list of them. We bold out the ones that are some big cap names that we're watching after hours and pre-market. The fear greed index still at that neutral mindset. Last week we were on the neutral side, but we were also trending towards the greed area. The recent weakness this week has shifted this a little bit to a more neutral stance, trading at around the 51 level. Sector performance, we did see weakness. So we did see, though, keep in mind, we did see some strength last week in consumer staples, energy, and utilities. The rest have seen complete weakness with trading from last week. Industry comparisons, we are seeing a little downtick from last week. We did see that run up since June, but we are starting to see a little downtick in markets following last week. Trade rate probabilities for September meeting. Currently, we are expecting, and the traders are expecting a 50 basis point rise, currently at 59% versus the 41% mindset of a 75 basis point. Your 10-year Treasury constant maturity is still negative at spot 2.7. Your AAII investor sentiment survey continues to uptick on a bullish mindset. We've been seeing an uptick throughout July and all of August. The bearish mindset with a downtick, but this is the first time in a few weeks that we've seen an actual uptick in the bearish sentiment. The neutral mindset has downticked, but the bullish side continues to trade higher. Year-to-date percent returns for the weekend, we are seeing strength continuing in that gas, up almost 150% for the year still. We saw an uptick in heating oil, up 58%. Crude oil did see a downtick of about 3%. The VIX upticked. We saw a little downtick in corn, but still green on the year. Cotton had one of the biggest moves of the week. Was down 4.44% last week, now up about 2%. We did see some downticks in a few other commodity plays, but the weakest of all, silver continues with a drop of about 8% last week. Silver down 18.79% year to date. Sector outlooks, Energies and utilities continue to take hold on the green side, as we are seeing weakness continuing in all other major sectors. IPO lockup expirations, none for the week. Expected IPOs. We are watching IPOs. We've been seeing the moves as of late in the IPO market. These are some of the IPOs that are expected to be released this week. As always, we'll mention in the news desk when they are set to be released. FDA calendar, not much action. We are expecting something on Thursday. BJDX data presentation on a Symphony ILL6 test. So not much action on the FDA side going into this week. As we mentioned, with the summer's doldrums, it typically happens going into more active markets starting in September. Taking a peek at some charts. We've been doing this and adding this as a lot of our members have been asking lately our insights on the technical market, since they believe that, as we believe, this market is a very technical market as of late. The SMH, no changes to this chart. Tested resistance again, broke the downtrend, this little uptrend pattern. As that was broken, it started a range bound trade. We continue to be in that range bound trade between 230 245 on the SMHs. More color on that on the note. Your SPY daily. We added a new resistance level up here, but nothing else was changed. We see a complete test on this trend line over here that we are watching. So we are seeing a trend line test, but also a resistance test last week. We are watching for that initial 420 support, but then the key level support around the 415s level. So we are watching any technical moves on an upside 430 break or a downside 420 initial support drop. That's on the SPY dailies. On an SPY weekly, just another look on a weekly basis, continues to trend right off of that trend line, which has been tested 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times already on a weekly basis. So we're watching this to see how, or if it continues to the upside, or we see an initial break of the uptrend. We'll follow up on that next week. IWMs, we are showing a volume downtick in the IWMs. First time in a while for a Friday that we are seeing a vol downtick to end the week. So we're keeping a close eye on the IWM next week. The VIX daily, we are seeing the same thing, a tick to the upside with a few moving average breaks. So we're going to keep an eye on the VIX this week to see if it continues, or the base around 20 that we've been discussing for weeks on end is that level that we are watching moving forward. 10-year yield on a weekly basis. Last week, the downtrend was broken. We kept it there from last week just to show you how technical this market could be. Once that downtrend was broken, we're seeing a test at next level resistance, which we were discussing at that 3% level. So we're watching 3% to the upside. On the downside, back to that 8% level support on the 10-year yield. The Russell ETF, on a more detailed basis, this was no changes to the chart. This trend line was there from last week. Once that trend line was broken, we did see a downtick in the IWMs. So we're watching IWMs for the 190s to 200 level range trade for now. An upside break above 200 could see 210. A downside break of 190 could see the initial around the 185 level short-term support. HYG on a weekly. We've been mentioning this HYG first initially once this level was broken on an upside. We did see a vol downtick on the HYG once that 80 level test was almost done. We hit a high of 79.32 on the HYG. So we are watching that 80s level upside resistance and watching that 76 support that we've been discussing for a while as well. SPY daily, another look on a more moving average basis. Triple Qs as well on a moving average basis. We are seeing tests on moving averages across a lot of indices, ETFs. Oil on a daily. We are watching this oil trade on an upside watch at this point because we are seeing a test of the downtrend. We are seeing that test from that downtrend that was built a few weeks ago. 1, 2, 3, 4, about 4 or 5 tests already on that downtrend. typically around that 90 level upside resistance move. We are watching. If that 90.95 upside resistance is broken, we could see another $100 test. But the key level we are watching on the downside is 85. We saw a few tests of it this week. An 85 break could see a quick drop to that 80 level. So we are watching crude oil very closely, as it has been talked about as one of the reasons why the inflation level has dropped as of late. If we see an upside move, our thoughts are, what would the CPI show in the next few months? So we are watching crude oil very carefully and seeing if there is any upside break to this downtrend. And if there is, one thing we always say is we got to focus on that volume to see if it is a confirmed upside break. So we're watching oil. As always, we'll talk about that in the news desk on any specific move up or down. US dollar daily. We mentioned the base being built last week, and we watched the downtrend. Once that downtrend was broken, we saw a quick spike in the US dollar, hitting new resistance levels. If this resistance level is broken, we could see new highs in the US dollar, which we are watching because we believe this does impact our markets, especially on the NASDAQ side. So we are watching the US dollar move, seeing if it does test the resistance here, come back, or we are seeing a move to new highs. So we are keeping a close eye on all of that. Lastly, Bitcoin, watching Bitcoin on a daily basis. We've been discussing Bitcoin for quite some time, that 20,000, 25,000 level on a watch. We tested it a few times last week and as of recent, but we could not break above that level. Once that test was done, that level showed weakness, ending the week at around 21,200. So we are watching these points, 20,000 downside, 25,000 upside. One other chart that we like to watch is this Diamond Weekly out by Zozo Trader. It's an upside move and a downside move, which is a very interesting chart that we're watching. Once that downside range was broken, we saw a move to the upside. So now we're watching the upside range at this point, this wedge, to see if there are continuations in this pattern or a break to a possible downside move. So we are watching the Diamond Weekly as well to see if there is any indication of any moves moving forward. Once again, members, we want to thank you all for joining us. I know that it is a little early. We had to reschedule from our usual 10 a.m. Showtime. So we'll still open it up for any questions. If anybody has any questions in regards to the weekend webinar, the views in regards to last week or this week. So we'll open it up. And if anyone has any questions, just shoot it in the chat box. We'll go mic silent for a little bit. Okay, we have a quick question in regards to, will we ever do webinars on technical analysis? Saying that they have seen it through the webinars and they have been working for the user. We are going to eventually, once things pick up in September and going into the end of the year, we are looking to do monthly webinars on technical analysis from what we see on our side. We try to get an idea when it comes to a technical analysis. We know that a lot of traders utilize momentum these days more than technical analysis, but we try to show our members that this market has been very technical. We try to also, in our notes, mention when we do make changes to the charts in regards to either adding or taking away certain trend lines. Like a perfect example, we'll always say if we added a resistance or support level, or if we made no changes to the chart. So traders know that this has been for weeks. These looks on these trend lines or support and resistance levels, we keep them there so they can see that the market, in our opinion, is a very technical market. And we are watching. And a clear example is the 10-year yield. Once that level was broken, we saw a quick pop. So we believe that the markets are technical. We will be having some webinars in regards to our views on the technical on a more clear-cut basis on individual stocks and ETFs. We'll leave it open at that point for a live webinar on charting and technical analysis. We'll leave it up for another few minutes. If there are any other questions, let us know. Thank you. So just once again, I want to thank everyone for joining us this week on the TradeXchange weekend webinar. We'll make a recording of this. Thank you. Enjoy the weekend. Check the news desk to get yourself ready for Monday morning. As always, Squawk will be up and running first thing tomorrow morning. TradeXchange out.